What's happening, good people? Welcome to the channel. I'm Wes, aka Mr. Budget Watch, and today we're going to be taking a look at this RadCliffe signature. Now, this was kindly loaned to the channel, but it does have to go back once the review has been completed. Now, if you've never heard of RadCliffe, they are a UK-based company out of Oxford, and they've had a couple of releases, but they are quite a new micro brand. I always, do like to showcase thingy when I can, when I get the opportunity to. I don't get the opportunity much, but when I do like to, jump on it and show you guys something a little bit different. So, link for this one will be in the description. So let's cover off a few things before we get into the review. And the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that this is a pre-production model, so it is a prototype. So there will be a few changes on this one compared to the production model, and I'll talk about that when they actually come up in the review. So let's get off started with the specifications. So this one measures in at 40mm diameter, 43.3 including the crown, 20mm lug width, 12.1 thick excluding the crystal, 13.7 including the crystal, 47mm lug to lug, and the crown is 6.3mm. Sized up for me, it weighs 124 grams, and on a full bracelet it's 139 grams. 316L stainless steel throughout, a domed sapphire crystal with AR coating, 100 meters of water resistance, and we also have an unexpected sapphire bezel as well as a sapphire crystal at the back as well, which is something I was not expecting. Right, so let's start off with the bezel, and you can see that we do have some colour matching here, and I think that's really nice. You don't see that too often at this price point, so yeah, quite impressed there. So you can see we have markings all the way around and then numerals every 5 minutes. I will want to say that there is a slight misalignment going on, but again, this is pre-production. I have seen some images of the final production version. I'll pop them on screen now. And you can see that alignment issue has been resolved, so don't worry about that if you do actually pick one of these up at retail. So moving in, you can see we have a black rehaut with colour matching minute track, so it all matches the dial. I think these little details just, set stuff like this apart, and I think it's very, very impressive to see again at this price point. So moving in again, you can see we have fully applied indices with a high polish border. So we have double at the 12, 3 and 9. Of course, we have a date window at the 6 o'clock, which I'll talk about now. So you can see that this is a full day date because we have an NH36 movement in it instead of an NH35. Now, for me, I'm going to be brutally honest, I'm not a huge fan of this. I would have just liked to see an NH35 with a date at the bottom, because I think that just sticks into the dial a little bit too much, but that's just a personal preference. I do love that it's colour matched though, and they've got some interesting font, and I think it works really well in terms of that. I also appreciate that it is bordered to match the indices, but yeah, it just doesn't do anything for me, unfortunately. What does is that dial. It's a gouache style and it is beautiful. I love the shade of blue that they've used, and I just think it's magnificent. Honestly, I was not expecting this dial to be as impressive as it is. From seeing the pictures, it didn't look like it's got as much depth as it does, but it is fantastic, and it also slightly shifts in colour as well, which is awesome. Was not expecting it to be that good, but it is really that good. Under the 12, we've got RadCliffe, and then of course we've already mentioned the date window. To the handset, you can see we have a really sharp and angular sort of sword style, and they are lume filled. And of course we've got a really slender second hand, again with a really pointed tip on the end. And do you know what? I think the second hand reaches just where it's supposed to. And I also love that the dial is quite clean as well. They've kept the minute track on the rehaut, so it's not on the dial. And I just think, although it's not as legible in that regard, it just looks so much better for it because it's cleaner. So yeah, very, very impressive job with the dial. Moving on to the side profile, you can just see we have a high polished side of the bezel. And you can see that subtly domed crystal. Brushing at the sides, which is very, very nice. High polished chamfer and drilled lugs, all really nice things to have. And I just love how the high polish breaks up the brushing. Now you guys know I always complain about high polish, but when it's done like this, I don't mind it at all. I think it adds to the watch rather than detracts from it. Taking a look at this side, you can see we have the same profile and everything. Nice downturn to those lugs and a signed crown. So this is one of the things that is changing. They are actually changing the symbol to an R, and that's one of the things that's going to be changing from this to the actual final production model. The quality is going to be exactly the same, the size is going to be the same, it's just going to be the little emblem is going to be replaced with an R instead of that. So yeah, that is pretty much it. So let's take a look at that case back. And there you go. So you can see we have quite an unusual case back. So it is screwed down, and then we've got this Rolex-esque sort of coin edge around it, which is really cool. High polish with all your specifications, and then a NH36 with a custom rotor. That is really cool. It's got the same pattern as on the dial, but it's actually finished off in a different colour. I think I'm going to go it's bronze, and I just think it's so nice to see that they've done something a little bit different and not just kept the stock rotor, because that's not the nicest to look at. So now we're going to talk about the lugs, and they are brushed. You can just see that little chamfered edge against it, and I just think it's really nice. The brushing is great quality, really nice and smooth. The transition is nice as well. All very impressive. So now let's talk about in use and the movement. So obviously I've mentioned that this is an NH36, which is basically an NH35 with a day instead of a day. So it's 24 joule, 21,600 beats per hour, 41 hour power reserve, -20 to +40, hacking, hand winding, auto winding, and of course that Seiko magic lever. But let's talk about how easy it is to use, and we're going to start with the crown. So the crown is a nice size, really good quality knurling on it, and it's high polish as well. It's very good, easy to grip because there's no crown guards. It works with the aesthetic styling, and it's just easy to use as well. So it is push-pull, so one pull out, and obviously that should, if you can see, allow you to change the day and date. So if you flick it around, you can see we can adjust that. Pull it out again, second hand stops, and you can adjust the time. Very nice and solid feeling, really robust. And it's just a pleasure to use. No complaints really whatsoever. So yeah, all works as it should. So now we're going to move on to the bracelet. And this one is, I'm going to be honest, a little bit of a letdown for me. In one way only. The rest of it is absolutely fine. So I think the finishing is done to a very good standard. The brushing matches the lugs very nicely. And then we have these high polished center beads of rice style. And that is my problem. The beads of rice is actually a faux beads of rice. As you can see, if I show you there, you can see they're all one link. To me, the bracelet just looks a little bit one-dimensional because of it. If you've seen a regular beads of rice, they've got quite a bit of depth to them. Now, there's nothing wrong with the quality of it. It's really well made. High polished sides, push pins holding it together, solid end links. So there's nothing wrong with the finishing, the quality of it. No complaints there. It's just the styling for me is, the faux beads of rice just doesn't really work, in my opinion. I think if they just bumped the price up a little bit at retail and put a proper beads of rice in, that would have just finished it off. Can't fault it in terms of build and finishing, like I said, but just the aesthetic, it's just a little bit flat and doesn't quite do the watch the justice it deserves, if that makes sense. Looking at the class, you can see we have brush sides, 2 micro adjusts, branded, chamfered edges and brushed, signed, all nice, stainless steel, milled clasp, and it just clips in place. Really easy to use, really nice and simple to adjust. So no complaints really there. It's just like I said, the styling for me, it's just not quite there. So now let's get this on wrist and show you what it wears like. Right guys, so here it is on my wrist, and you know what? It actually fits really nice. Taking a look at the profile first, you can see I do get a little bit of a gap, but then again, I have really weird shaped wrist. Lug to lug, you know, fits absolutely fine, no lug overhang at all. So I think, you know what, if you've got a 6-inch wrist like myself, you could pull this off, no problem whatsoever. Obviously, if you've got a slightly thicker wrist, it's going to be equally as good and equally as comfortable. The bracelet, like I've said, is very, very comfortable. Plenty of articulation in the bracelet, plenty of flex in it. No complaints in that regard at all, but I'm not going to talk any more about that. Nice little clasp, and I love that it's compact as well. Usually the bigger ones don't really wear that well for me on my slim wrist, so I do appreciate that this does have micro adjust and it's compact too, which is, you know, like I said, ideal for us guys with slimmer wrists. But again, it'll still be fine with you guys with thicker wrists too. And you know what, I just love that shade of blue, what they've used. But yeah, very, very comfortable, really nice wearing watch. So yeah, I've got no complaints at all. Nicely balanced, not too heavy. So 124 gram, you know, it's really wearable. No complaints really in the comfort department at all. So guys, to summarise, is this watch worth its price? Well, currently, well actually, by the time this review goes live, that offer will have probably gone. It was initially £215, which I think is an absolute steal. It will be going up to £289 at retail, which I still think is a cracking buy. Like I've mentioned already with the bracelet, if they'd probably take this watch up to 300 quid and give us a proper beads of rice bracelet, I think that would be outstanding. As is though, I think 289, do you know what? It's a very, very good price. The finishing is good, the build quality is good. And like I said, this is just a pre-production prototype. So, you know, I've been told that the finished product is going to be even better. So, do you know what? Based on this, what I'm seeing, I'm going to say, yeah, it's worth it. If they do a version 2, which I'm hoping they do, I'd love to see a slightly higher price point with a proper beads of rice bracelet, and I just think that would be so much better in my opinion. But again, it's still absolutely fantastic, so you know, it's a great watch as is. This does, you know, it's not a deal breaker, not a deal breaker at all, but I just think it just sort of takes away from the rest of the watch in my opinion, because the rest of it is so good. So yeah, definitely, if you want something a little bit different, it's sort of dressy and sporty at the same time. Yeah, I definitely recommend checking them out. And it's, you know, cool that they're, you know, a British company as well. So yeah, that is pretty much it, guys. Link for this one down in the description. Definitely, you know, worth it in my opinion. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads, and of course follow me on social media at Mr. Budget Watch. Thanks again, I'll see you soon.